Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to be reading parts of this book about Indonesia. Now, what's very interesting is that when I last covered the history and geography of Indonesia, I already flipped through this book and we looked at all of the pictures already. So tonight we're just going to focus on all the little boxes inside. Hopefully, if I remember, I'll link the original Indonesia video up there. Otherwise, it's on my channel. You just search Indonesia. But hopefully I remember. But let's look at all the little boxes about Indonesia, because we've already talked about all of these amazing pictures. Let's see what we can find. Enjoy the page turning sounds. Here we go. Our first big page of boxes. It says, Killer Waves. It was a December Indonesians will always remember. On the morning of December 26, 2004, a magnitude 9.0 earthquake violently shook the seafloor 100 miles off the west coast of Sumatra. The earthquake was caused by the shifting and sliding of tectonic plates, which make up the Earth's outer layer. Heaving with the power of 23,000 atomic bombs, the quake unleashed a series of deadly tsunami waves that spread across the Indian Ocean at speeds of up to 500 miles per hour. Within a few hours, killer waves as high as 50 feet crashed into coastal communities of 11 Indian Ocean nations, including Indonesia, Thailand, India, and Sri Lanka. The quake was the third largest in recorded history. It was so powerful that it caused the entire planet to vibrate roughly 1/4 of an inch. The rumbling also triggered smaller earthquakes as far off as the U.S. state of Alaska, nearly 7,000 miles away. The devastation was overwhelming. More than 160,000 people were killed in Sumatra alone, as towns and villages were swept away by the giant waves. An estimated 280,000 people were killed in 14 countries, including roughly 220,000 in Indonesia. Nearly 200,000 more people were injured or missing, and close to 1.7 million people were made homeless by the tragedy. People from around the world stepped forward to assist the victims of the disaster. Governments contributed billions of dollars, and private citizens donated millions more. Thousands of international volunteers flocked to the region to help. Through the efforts of Indonesians and people from around the world, the region has been rebuilt. Next, we're going to look at Indonesia cities. Let's start up here. Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, is also its largest city, with a population of about 10,188,000. This book's a couple years old, so I'm sure that number has risen drastically. The second largest city, with a population of about 3,010,000, is Surabaya, the capital of the province of East Java. The earliest accounts of the city appear in a book written by a Chinese government official in 1255. Surabaya developed into a major trading center, and today it is one of Indonesia's busiest ports. The 17,841-foot-long Suramadu Bridge is the longest in the country and the first bridge to cross the Madura Strait, connecting the islands of Java and Madura. Its completion spurred economic growth in the region. Other points of interest include the Al Akbar Mosque and the Empu Tantular Museum, which features a large collection of ancient Javanese art, weapons, pottery, and coins. With an estimated population of 2,560,000 people, Bandung, the capital of the province of West Java, is Indonesia's third largest city. Situated 2,520 feet above sea level, Bandung has a cooler climate than most Indonesian cities. Bandung's economy is based mainly on tourism, textiles, agriculture, technology, and financial services. With nearly 50 institutions of higher learning, the city is one of Indonesia's most important centers for education. Bandung is home to fine examples of Dutch colonial architecture, many which feature traditional Indonesian themes and design. Medan, the capital of North Sumatra province, is Indonesia's fourth largest city, with a population of 2,242,000. The city began to flourish after the 1860s, when Dutch colonists established tobacco plantations in the region. Within a few decades, Medan blossomed into an important center for government and commerce. Maimun Palace is one of the city's landmarks. Built in the late 19th century by Sultan Mahmud al-Rashid Perkasa Alamsyah, the palace incorporates diverse architectural elements, including Malay, Muslim, Indian, Spanish, and Italian styles. Let's see what other boxes we can find. Ooh, the day the world exploded. On August 26th and 27th, 1883, a series of 4 titanic explosions rocked the island of Krakatoa, located between Java and Sumatra. Over a 5-hour period, powerful volcanic eruptions destroyed 3/4 of the island and other islands nearby. The 2,600-foot high volcanic mountain was blasted completely away. All that remained was a 1,000-foot deep hole in the ocean floor. Rock and debris from the mountain was hurled more than 17 miles into the atmosphere. The roars of the blasts were heard more than 2,200 miles away in Australia. The eruption devastated the region. On Java and Sumatra alone, more than 36,000 people were killed, and 165 villages were destroyed. Thousands of people were killed in lava flows. Some of the lava flows, capable of reaching temperatures of up to 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, traveled across the waters on a cushion of steam, all the way to Sumatra, more than 25 miles away. Huge tsunami waves produced by the eruption stretched out across the surrounding seas, sinking ships as far away as India and South Africa. Some estimates place the eruption's total death toll at 120,000. For nearly 3 days after the eruption, a thick black cloud of dust and ash hung over the region. As winds carried the ash and other volcanic material in the atmosphere around the world, weather patterns changed. Summer temperatures in the northern hemisphere dropped by as much as 2.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Record rainfall in California in the year following the eruption has been credited to the monstrous blasts. The fine dust spewed into the atmosphere darkened the sky worldwide and caused spectacular sunsets for more than 3 years. Today, the volcano is rebuilding itself as lava seeps out through crevices in the ground and hardens. Since the 1950s, it has grown about 5 inches taller per week and now stands 620 feet above sea level. The new mountain is called Anak Krakatau, or Child of Krakatoa. There it is. Changing colors. The island of Flores contains one of Indonesia's most unique geographic features, the dormant volcano Kelimutu, which has not 1 but 3 dazzling crater lakes. Rocky ridges separate the lakes from one another, but what is truly astounding is that each lake has its own distinct color. Tiwu Atapupu, or Lake of Old People, is usually blue. Tiwu Kofai Nua Muri, Lake of Young Men and Maidens, is usually bright turquoise, and Tiwu Atapolo, Lake of the Witches, is often bright red or burgundy. Sometimes, unpredictably, the lakes change colors. Scientists believe the different colors are the result of chemical reactions, as different gases are emitted from the volcano below. Let's see what else we've got. The national bird. Look at this guy. The Javan hawk eagle is the national bird of Indonesia. It is commonly called the Garuda after a bird-like creature in Buddhist and Hindu stories. The Javan hawk eagle is one of the world's rarest raptors, or birds that hunt other animals. Only about 325 pairs of Javan hawk eagles live in the wild. Powerful predator. Indonesia is home to the world's largest lizard, the Komodo dragon. This remarkable creature lives on the archipelago's hot, dry, volcanic islands. Komodo dragons can grow up to 10 feet long and weigh 330 pounds. These ferocious predators can move short distances quickly. They use their keen eyesight, sharp claws, and wide, powerful jaws to hunt and kill their prey, which includes other Komodo dragons. Bacteria in their saliva can cause infections, so even if the prey is not killed immediately when it is attacked, the bite often becomes infected and the prey eventually dies. Roughly 2,500 to 5,000 Komodo dragons remain in the wild. Most live in the Komodo National Park habitat on the islands of Komodo, Padar, Rinca, and a few other nearby islands. The world's largest flower. Rafflesia arnoldii is one of Indonesia's 3 national flowers, along with the white jasmine and the moon orchid. Rafflesia is the world's largest and heaviest flower, often reaching 3 feet in diameter and weighing up to 24 pounds. It does not have leaves, stems, or roots, but instead gathers nutrients and water from the plants it grows on or next to. The flowers of the plant have a reddish-brown color and emit a strong odor that smells like rotting meat. This smell attracts insects such as flies, which pollinate the rare plant. Designated the national rare flower in 1993, Rafflesia grows mainly in the rainforests and parks of Borneo, Java, and Sumatra. Cute. Look at it. Tanjung Puting National Park. Tanjung Puting National Park in central Borneo is one of Indonesia's greatest natural wonders. The park spreads across 1,600 square miles, incorporating a diverse range of habitats, including mangrove swamps, beech forests, and swamp forests. If you're listening, that's B-E-A-C-H, forests, not B-E-E-C-H. The Dutch colonial government established the park in the 1930s to protect orangutans and proboscis monkeys. Other species found in the preserve include clouded leopards, Malaysian sun bears, deer, and wild cattle known as banteng. The park is also home to crocodiles, snakes and lizards, insects, butterflies, and more than 230 varieties of birds. Illegal mining and logging operations have destroyed some of the park's forest and have threatened wildlife in the park. A program of reforestation and animal protection conducted by Indonesia's Friends of the National Parks Foundation, however, has helped to restore much of the park to its former natural state. So cute. Let's see what else we've got here. Here we go. Women's rights pioneer. Raden Ajeng Kartini was the daughter of a Javanese nobleman working for the Dutch colonial government. Kartini was concerned about the lack of educational opportunities Indonesians, especially the women, were given under Dutch rule. In 1903, she opened the first Indonesian primary school for local girls. Later in her life, she wrote letters to a fellow feminist and Dutch officials in Holland, describing the poor treatment of Indonesians. The letters were published in the book Out of Dark Comes Light. Kartini's writings attracted attention in the Netherlands and helped change the way the Dutch viewed women in Indonesia. Her letters also encouraged other Indonesians in the fight for independence. And here's Indonesia's first president. Sukarno was born in Surabaya, the only son of a poor Javanese schoolteacher and his Balinese wife. As a student, Sukarno mastered many languages, including several Indonesian languages: Arabic, Dutch, German, English, and French. Later on, he also learned Japanese. In high school, he developed friendships with some of Indonesia's most prominent nationalist leaders and began to think and write about independence from the Dutch. In 1928, he co-founded the Indonesian Nationalist Party. Sukarno's goal was to unite the divergent peoples of the Indonesian islands into a single independent nation. He was arrested in 1929 by the Dutch colonial secret police for disturbing the peace. During his trial the following year, he made a series of speeches against Dutch colonialism that gained him widespread support. Sukarno returned to Jakarta in 1942 after years of forced exile by Dutch authorities. During the early 1940s, he worked with the Japanese during their occupation of Indonesia in the hopes of keeping the Dutch out of the East Indies. Through radio broadcasts, he became well known among Indonesians as a strong leader. On August 17, 1945, Sukarno announced Indonesia's independence. The new nation's stability, however, was in doubt. For years, Indonesians fought the Dutch and the British and then each other for control of the country. Thousands of people were imprisoned or killed. Discontent, demonstrations, and riots continued throughout much of Sukarno's presidency. By 1966, Sukarno had lost his popular support. On April 11th, he signed a presidential order that turned over the presidency to General Suharto, who had recently seized command of the Indonesian army. The disgraced former president was placed under house arrest in March 1967 and died 3 years later at the age of 69. Ooh, here's one more box. In the history section, it says, Independence for Timor-Leste. When Indonesia proclaimed its independence in 1945, the island of Timor belonged to two nations. The western half belonged to Indonesia, while the eastern half belonged to Portugal. In 1974, a military coup in Portugal replaced Portugal's dictatorship with a democracy. The new Portuguese government chose to withdraw from Timor and its other colonies. In December 1975, the Indonesian military invaded East Timor and claimed the entire island. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Indonesian troops battled the East Timorese. More than 200,000 people died from battle, starvation, or disease. In 1999, Indonesian President J.B. Habibie agreed to allow the people of East Timor to decide for themselves whether they wanted independence. Almost 80% of East Timorese voted for independence. Furious, Indonesian troops and local militia groups with ties to the military went on a rampage. Buildings were burned, and homes and businesses were destroyed. Tens of thousands of civilians fled in terror. United Nations troops were sent in to quell the violence and maintain order. In May 2002, East Timor declared its independence, becoming the nation of Timor-Leste. See what else we've got here. Ooh, the National Emblem. The national emblem, or coat of arms, of Indonesia is called the Garuda Pancasila. The Garuda, an ancient mythical bird, symbolizes energy, nature, and the greatness of the country. The 8 feathers on the bird's tail, 17 feathers on each wing, and 45 on its neck represent the date of Indonesia's independence, August 17th, 1945. The symbols on the shield stand for Pancasila, the 5 values that make up Indonesia's national philosophy. The Garuda grips a white ribbon inscribed with the national motto, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity. President Sukarno supervised the design of the coat of arms, which was officially adopted as the national emblem on February 11th, 1950. Now, surely I already read this box about Indonesia's flag, but let's do it again. The national flag of Indonesia is called the Sang Saka Merah Putih, which means the sacred red and white. It is based on the 9-striped red and white banner of the 13th century Majapahit Empire in East Java. The flag was introduced at the Indonesian Independence Day festivities on August 17, 1945, and officially adopted 1 month later. It features 2 horizontal bands of equal size, red on the top and white on the bottom. The red symbolizes gallantry and freedom, and the white symbolizes justice and purity. President of the people. In 2014, Indonesians elected Joko Widodo president. Widodo is the first leader of Indonesia who is not from a military or elite background. He grew up in a slum and as a young child had to work to earn money for school supplies. At age 12, he began helping at his father's furniture workshop, but he never quit school. After attending university, Widodo went into business before turning to politics. At the time of the presidential election, he was serving as governor of the Jakarta Capital region. As governor, he improved flood control, provided health care for all, and began programs to reduce government corruption. What else do we have here? The National Anthem. Let's read this little bit about the National Anthem. Look at those smiles. Wage Rudolf Supratman composed Indonesia Raya, or Great Indonesia, in 1928 as a call to all Indonesians to support ethnic and cultural unity in their homeland. The song was sung at political rallies and printed in newspapers in a gesture of defiance against Dutch authorities. The first stanza of the song was chosen as Indonesia's national anthem when the country declared its independence in 1945. Let's take a look at the capital city, which as of now, as of recording, is still the capital city of Indonesia. May not be in the near future, but as of early 2023, it still is. Jakarta, Indonesia's capital and largest city, is home to roughly 10,188,000 people. Located on the northwest coast of Java, the city traces its history to the 4th century as part of one of the oldest Hindu kingdoms in Indonesia. By the 13th century, the city, then called Sunda Kelapa, had developed into a small port that was part of a large, thriving Hindu kingdom. By the 1500s, it was a major seaport and center of trade. The city was renamed Jayakarta, or Glorious Victory, by its Muslim conquerors in about 1530. In 1618, the Dutch destroyed most of the city during battles against Indonesian forces and renamed the city Batavia. The city served as the economic center of the Dutch colonial empire for the next 300 years. The city was renamed Jakarta during the Japanese occupation of the 1940s. Today, the city is a center for industries such as electronics, chemicals, communications, and finance. Tourism is also important. Most of Jakarta's visitors come from other parts of Indonesia. Favorite tourist attractions include Rangunan Zoo, the old port of Sunda Kelapa, and Angkor Dreamland, a theme park along Jakarta's waterfront. Major landmarks in Jakarta include the National Monument, a 433-foot tower that commemorates the fight for Indonesian independence. The nearby Istiqlal Mosque is the largest mosque in Southeast Asia. Standing in front of the mosque is the Jakarta Cathedral, a Roman Catholic house of worship built in 1901. The Jakarta History Museum, located in the Old Town section of Jakarta, was once the City Hall of Batavia. Today, the museum features artifacts displaying the early history of Jakarta and its surrounding regions. Another popular attraction is Taman Mini Indonesia Indah, a park that features cultural exhibits from across Indonesia. Isn't that the park where they have like miniature versions of all like the sights to see in Indonesia? Is that what I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I could be very wrong though. Other areas of the city feature modern homes, shopping malls, hotels, skyscrapers, and sports arenas. At 860 feet tall, the sleek Wisma 46 is Indonesia's tallest building. Gelora Bung Karno Stadium is used for soccer matches and seats more than 88,000 spectators. The stadium also hosts political rallies, rock concerts, and religious gatherings. Let's see. Ooh, the money facts. Indonesia's official unit of currency is the rupiah. Coins come in denominations of 50, 100, 200, 500, and 1,000 rupiahs. Indonesian bills or banknotes are issued with values of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, and 100,000 rupiahs. The banknotes feature colorful depictions of Indonesian history, architecture, and culture. The 1,000 rupiah note shows Patimura, a 19th century soldier who fought for independence from the Dutch, and a picture of fishermen on a boat sailing past islands. The 2,000 rupiah note depicts Antasari, a pro-independence sultan from Banjar, and Indonesian women performing the Dayak, a traditional dance of Borneo. In 2014, 12,200 rupiahs equaled $1. Let's see, what else do we have? Preserving a way of life. The Badwe people live in central Java. Ethnically, the Badwe belong to the Sundanese group and speak a form of Sundanese. The Badwe number only 5,000 to 8,000 people. To preserve their culture from outside influences, the Badwe have divided their society into two groups. The inner Badwe are the holy members of the community, who live in 3 sacred villages called Tanah Larangan, or Forbidden Territory. The holy members, who the Badwe believe are descended from gods, do not allow any type of technology into their villages and discourage outsiders from visiting. The outer Badwe live in about 24 villages on the outskirts of the Forbidden Territory. They have slightly more contact with the outside world. The Badwe are forbidden to use any form of transportation or to learn how to write. Doing so, they believe, would conflict with the will of gods and spirits. Kind of like the Amish, but way more extreme. Into the afterlife. The death rituals of the Toraja people of South Sulawesi are elaborate. A funeral is often held months or even years after a person dies. The delay allows the family of the deceased to raise enough money for funeral expenses and allows the body time to decay. Once there is nothing left but bones, the Toraja people believe the soul can't be free from the body. At the death ceremony, the body is placed in a high wooden tower overlooking the celebration. You can see up there. The event features music, sports, singing, ritual dancing, and poetry reading. The richer and more powerful the deceased person was, the costlier and more elaborate the funeral. Death ceremonies of a wealthy nobleman can last several days and be attended by thousands of people. Water buffalo are killed during the ritual. Their bodies are arranged on a field where they wait for the spirit of the deceased. The Toraja believe that the dead person rides the souls of the buffalo to reach the afterlife. The higher the rank of the deceased, the more buffalo that are killed. The buffalo spirits are believed to travel to the afterlife with the deceased, so the person maintains rank in the afterlife. Some of the bodies of the buffalo are given to guests as gifts, providing meat for the community. On the day of the burial, the coffin containing the deceased is placed in a cave high on a cliff. A carved wooden effigy of the dead person is put in the cave overlooking the land. You can see up here. Each August, the skeletons of the dead are removed, washed, and dressed in new clothes. Let's see. Ooh, this is a long one. Transmigration, a movement of people. In 1905, Dutch officials instituted the Transmigration program, or Transmigratie in Indonesian. The goal of the program was to reduce poverty and overcrowding on densely populated islands such as Java, Bali, and Madura, by moving people to less densely populated areas such as Papua, Kalimantan, Sumatra, and Sulawesi. The migration also provided a workforce for plantations on Sumatra and helped make the best use of the outer islands' natural resources. The Dutch moved roughly 650,000 people, mostly from Java to Sumatra's east coast. Many migrants entered into contracts to work on plantations there. If a worker wanted to end the contract, however, the company for which he or she worked often punished him or her with hard labor. Conditions on the plantations were harsh, and the death rate among the workers was very high. Nevertheless, President Sukarno expanded the program after independence in the hopes it would strengthen Indonesia's economy. Hold on, I need to... There, just to see. At its peak between 1984 and 1989, roughly 2.5 million people were resettled. In total, between 1905 and 1989, 5 million people were moved to the outer islands. An additional 10 to 15 million people moved to the outer islands independent of the program. The Transmigration ultimately failed to improve the migrants' lives or significantly boost the nation's economy. Instead, the program caused serious environmental, social, and political problems. Large tracts of forest land were cleared to create new farmland. However, the soil and climate of the migrants' new homes were usually not as favorable as they had been on Java and Bali. The natural resources of the outer islands became depleted and the land became overgrazed, resulting in soil erosion and deforestation. The arrival of new residents often caused resentment among the population already living on the outer islands. Violence between the groups flared in many communities. Thousands of people were killed fighting, and many more were made homeless by the conflicts. By the late 1990s, many displaced migrants were fleeing hostilities in Aceh, Kalimantan, Maluku, and other areas. In August 2000, the Indonesian government discontinued the Transmigration program. I'm not going to bother embarrassing myself trying to pronounce Indonesian words, so we'll skip that little box there. Now, whenever it's a Muslim-dominant country, there's always a picture of Mecca, and we usually get a box about, like, what is Islam? So let's learn about the 5 pillars of Islam if you don't know what they are. Muslims observe 5 duties or pillars of Islam. First is the profession of faith or Shahada. Muslims recite, "There is no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God." Second is Salah or prayer, which says Muslims are supposed to pray 5 times a day at dawn, noon, mid-afternoon, sunset, and evening. The third pillar of Islam is zakat, or giving charity. Muslims are required to help the poor and needy. The fourth tenet is Sawm, fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. During Ramadan, Muslims must not eat or drink from dawn to sunset each day. The fifth pillar of Islam is the Hajj, or pilgrimage. Muslims who are physically and financially able must make a journey to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, the holiest city in Islam, at least once in their lifetime. I have to adjust my seat again because can you see this light? Can you see that? That's the sun reflecting off my headphones. So now I need to sit up again so that you don't see that light traversing the video. I don't want to distract you. Let's read about Jakarta Cathedral. Oh, that light is still there. Okay, moving on. It's distracting me. I imagine it's distracting you guys too. Okay, I think that's better. Jakarta Cathedral in central Jakarta is one of Indonesia's best-known Roman Catholic churches. Built between 1891 and 1901, it is made of thick red brick covered in plaster and adorned with designs that imitate stone. The building is 2 stories tall, with the second floor serving as a museum with displays that tell the history of Roman Catholicism in Indonesia. 2 196-foot spires rise skyward from the north and south towers of the cathedral. The spires are painted dazzling white to symbolize the purity of Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ. Here is Prambanan, the Hindu temple. The largest and most spectacular Hindu temple site in Indonesia is located about 11 miles northeast of Yogyakarta in central Java. The group of temples is known as the Prambanan Temple Compounds. The first temple on the site was built around 850 to honor Shiva, a Hindu deity. Later kings expanded the compound, but by the 930s, the temples were abandoned and fell into ruin. A major earthquake in the 16th century further toppled the neglected structures, and the site was largely forgotten. Reconstruction of the compound began in 1918, and restoration efforts continue to the present day. Originally, about 240 temples stood in the Prambanan compound. The 3 principal temples are dedicated to the 3 main Hindu forms of God, Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. The Shiva temple is the largest, at 154 feet tall and 112 feet wide. Each of the temples features detailed stone carvings that recount the story of the Hindu religion. And here's a site that I really want to go to someday. A temple unearthed. Borobudur, a Buddhist temple in central Java, is the world's largest Buddhist temple and one of the world's great religious landmarks. Completed in 825 CE, the monument consists of 6 square platforms topped by 3 round platforms. Hundreds of stone carvings, many of Buddha, the man on whose teachings Buddhism is based, adorn the huge structure. For hundreds of years, the temple lay buried under layers of volcanic ash, dirt, and jungle growth. In the early 19th century, H.C. Cornelius, a Dutch engineer, cleared away the debris to reveal the astounding monument. About 2.5 million people visit Borobudur every year, making it Indonesia's single most visited site. Let's see, the sun is pouring in. Feels really nice, but it's kind of ruining my shots. I hope it's not too distracting. Writer and nationalist. One of Indonesia's most respected writers was Pramodya Ananta Toer. I hope I'm saying that right. Born in Blora in Java, he fought against the Dutch following Sukarno's proclamation of independence on August 17, 1945. During this time, he produced an Indonesian nationalist magazine and worked in radio to promote Indonesia's independence. Angered by his activities, the Dutch arrested Toer. While in prison, he wrote his first major novel, The Fugitive. I'm going to adjust this one more time. Okay, hopefully this is better. In the years after independence, Toer wrote a series of novels and short stories about Indonesian society. In his short story collections, Dawn and Sparks of Revolution, he describes the harsh realities of life in the archipelago during the revolution. In Tales of Bora, Toer exposes life on Java during the period of Dutch rule. By the 1960s, Toer supported the Indonesian Communist Party. He was critical of the government, accusing it of ignoring the needs of common Indonesians. When Suharto cracked down on communists in the mid-1960s, Toer was arrested, beaten, and imprisoned. Although banned from writing, Toer still had many stories to tell. He narrated his thoughts to fellow inmates, who carefully wrote down his words as he spoke. In this way, Toer produced 4 historical novels that further depicted the hardships under Dutch colonial rule in the 20th century. Toer was finally released from prison in 1979, but kept under house arrest until 1992. Despite his many years of persecution, Toer had become Indonesia's most acclaimed novelist. Okay, so I had to get up and close my curtain because then the sun was in my eyes. So it's moving so fast. So you probably didn't even notice anything, but I've been battling the sun for like the last 20 minutes. It's so funny. But let's move on to talk about the National Museum. Nicknamed the Elephant Museum for its huge bronze elephant statue in the courtyard, the National Museum of Indonesia is the nation's leading archaeological and historical museum. Located in central Jakarta, the museum was built by the Dutch East Indies government and was opened to the public in 1868. An ultra-modern edition opened in 2007. The museum's collection, more than 140,000 artifacts gathered from throughout Indonesia and elsewhere in Asia, traces the history of the region from prehistoric times to the present. It includes the world's largest collection of Hindu and Buddhist art of ancient Indonesia. The collection includes delicately carved statues, ceramics, coins, textiles, and items made of gold and bronze. One of the museum's most popular attractions is its collection of Stone Age artifacts, including fossils of early humans, stone tools, weapons, and ancient drums. Very cool. I love museums like that. They are so fun to explore. Let's read about the beauty of the Charis. You can see right here. Part weapon, part spiritual object, the Charis dates back to the time when Hinduism came to Indonesia. Some of the earliest depictions of a Charis appear in the 9th century carvings of Borobudur and Prambanan. An object of great beauty, a Charis has a wavy blade and jewel-encrusted handle. Traditionally, a Charis was believed to have a spirit and magical powers that enabled it to talk, walk, and fly. It was said it could warn its owner of danger by rattling in its sheath. Some Charis were said to help prevent fires, floods, and deaths, while others brought good luck and wealth. Years ago, the Charis was worn by Javanese aristocrats to show their power and authority. Today, the weapon is worn only in ceremonies. Grandmaster Utut Adianto. Born in Jakarta, Utut Adianto developed a passion for the game of chess at an early age. In 1977, at the age of 12, he won the Jakarta Junior Championship. 5 years later, he won the Indonesian National Championship. Piling up victory after victory, Adianto was awarded the title of Grandmaster, the highest title a chess player can attain, at the age of 21, becoming the youngest Indonesian to earn the title. In 2009, Adianto was elected to the Indonesian legislature, but he had not lost his affection for chess. Hopefully with this position, he said, I can raise chess to a better horizon in Indonesia, and for most people I shall do my utmost to bring them a better life. The art of kite flying. Layang-layang, or kite flying, is a popular activity for Indonesian children and adults. One type of layang-layang competition features handsomely decorated kites in the shapes of birds, dragons, or fish that are outfitted with pipes or whistles that make musical sounds as the kites soar through the sky. A panel of judges awards points to the kite with the most inventive shape and sounds. In another layang-layang competition, kites made of light bamboo and waxed paper are used in one-on-one kite dogfights. The string attached to the kite is coated with sharp, crushed glass. The object of the game is to slice the string of the opponent's kite, cutting the kite loose. Sometimes children chase the kite that has been cut loose. Whoever finds the loose kite becomes its new owner. Olympic glory. Badminton debuted at the 1992 Summer Olympic Games. Since then, Indonesians have been among the most dominant competitors. Winning a total of 18 medals, Indonesia ranks second only to China in Olympic badminton competition. Badminton requires speed, grace, and lightning-quick reflexes. The first Indonesians to capture gold medals were Alan Budi Kumusa and Susi Susanti in the men's and women's singles events, respectively, at the 1992 Games. Indonesians have also won Olympic medals in weightlifting and archery. I love playing badminton. It's so much fun. Let's see what else we're going to talk about. It says it's in the bag. In 2006, the United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, launched a program called Art in a Bag in the war-torn province of Aceh. The program's goal was to give elementary school children a way to express their feelings about the violence in the community. Teachers read students Achenese folk tales and encourage the children to illustrate the stories. Sometimes the students acted out the tales as mini-dramas. Many of the illustrations demonstrated the students' desire for a peaceful and lasting end to the conflict. "We are proud," said one student. People from the community and from other schools and even the government came to see her work. That's awesome. Let's read about the national costume. The kebaya, Indonesia's national costume, was first worn in Indonesia during the 15th or 16th centuries. The blouse or kebaya is usually made from a sheer fabric such as silk, thin cotton, or a semi-transparent polyester or nylon. In Java and Bali, the blouse is cut straight and fits somewhat loosely, while in Sunda it is tight and form-fitting. The blouse is often worn over a torso wrap called a kemben. The kebaya is usually worn with a kain, right? I'm in shadow now, so it's hard to see. Kain, a 10-foot long piece of fabric tightly wrapped around the waist and legs and held in place with a string and a belt. Kains are often colorfully dyed and adorned with gold thread, shells, and beads. To keep up with changing times and tastes, modern fashion designers have created kebaya that can be worn with jeans or Western-style dresses. National holidays, we can skip that part. Indonesian salad dressing. Let's see if there's anything else. I think that's it. Yep, that is certainly it. So that was it for today. Slightly chaotic on my end, but I don't think it transferred through to any of you guys, so I'm sure that this video for you is very calming and relaxing. At least I hope so. If you thought so, please consider subscribing to the channel, because I do flip throughs of books like these all the time. So if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good